Hey everybody, what's going on? I've decided to put together a bunch of trim tutorials. They're shorts, they're 10 minutes or less. Go to my channel, playlist, look for trim tutorials, open it up. Hopefully that you're going to find what you need. If you don't, leave it in the comments and I'll get that video done. We're saving crown molding for last. I'm trying to put it together a little bit in my head as to make this as simple as I can possibly make it. These videos are for DIYers. This is for the guy that has never installed trim or has installed some trim but wants to get more technical with what he's doing. Today we're going to talk about coping an inside corner on baseboard molding. Last video that I did was what to do when coping doesn't work. I didn't go into great detail why you would cope an inside corner other than what to do when it doesn't work. So in this video we're going to cope an inside corner and we're going to go into detail as to why you would do that, how it can save you time overall in the completion of your job. Hi everybody, I'm Jim Dirdorf and this is Detroit DIY. Let's get started. In the video that I did, what to do when coping doesn't work, I made a statement in there that I did not own a coping saw and I have never owned a coping saw. I've always done my coping with a 4-inch angle grinder with a flap sandpaper disc. This one's a little bit worn out, but I have more. So I was in Lowe's the other day and I saw these coping saws and I thought, you know what, why not? They're $9 plus tax obviously, but I was thinking about it and I thought, well, maybe someone who's installing trim, it's a one-time thing, doesn't want to spend the $35 or $40 for this guy. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to give this a try. So we're going to cope an inside corner with a coping saw. Let's get it done. This is the corner we're going to cope right here. So it's already coped on the other side. So you would cope one side and then you would butt one side flush to the wall like such. And then your second piece would come in just like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut a 45 on the end of this, just the same as an outside corner. Now I'm cutting the 45 on here instead of tracing my pattern from this piece of trim because I know my floor is level. Always make sure that your floors are level, unlike what we have over on this side where the floor is extremely unlevel. Here it is level. So we're good to go with a 45 cut on this cope. I have my miter saw set at 45 degrees and we're going to cut it just like an inside corner. And there it is. When we're coping, we want to follow this line. Not get into it, but we want to stay right at the very edge of that line. And we want to back cut it. So we want to cut it on an angle similar to that. Now I could take my miter saw and cut it all the way to here, but I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to cut this with the coping saw and we're going to see about how long this takes to get this cut out. Okay, so there we have it. Took what, about 2-3 minutes? Now we got to get this cleaned up a little bit. This is how it looks with no cleanup whatsoever. It's kind of ugly. I didn't do a real good job with the coping saw. But hey, it's the first time. And you know what? I wanted to show you that because the first time that you use a coping saw, it may look the same way. But you know what? We can straighten that up pretty easy, and I'm going to show you how right now. Here's a small piece of the exact same trim with the exact same profile. And what I'm going to do is use some general purpose spray adhesive, and I am going to glue this sandpaper right to this piece of trim. And I'm going to use that for a sanding block that's going to be basically the exact same shape as the trim that I have. We're going to let that tack up for a minute, and we're going to get this on there. It's tacked up for a couple minutes here, and we're just going to get it stuck on there just like that. And then I'm going to use the back side of my razor blade to push it down into the fold. Get it stuck down on there a little bit, and then push it in. Actually, I'm going to use my fingernail to do it. That wanted to just rip through. And I'm just going to fold the sandpaper around this way and fold it around this way. And now I effectively have a sanding block that is the profile of my trim. So what we want to do with our sanding block is lay it in here on a nice low angle like this so that it fits fairly tight against what we coped out, and sand it. So, and it might take a couple minutes. It's no big deal. And I'll tell you why in the end. If it takes you 10 minutes to get this right, at the end of the day, it's going to save you a lot of time as to trying to cut miters on an inside corner, because they rarely ever work. The floor's on level, whatever happens, they rarely ever work. If you spend 10 minutes with this, it's better than spending 30 minutes trying to get a miter to work. I spent about 3 minutes sanding it, something like that. It's looking pretty good. Let's see how it fits. Give it a little slide in there. And there we go. That is just not a bad fit. Trim a little bit of that paint out of the way. Not a bad fit at all. We have a little spot right there, but we can correct that with just a little bit of caulking, or we can even sand it some more if we wanted to, however you'd like to do it. So let's get into the reason why you would save more time coping an inside corner. And part of that is because this may not be a true 90 degrees, what we've talked about before with the miter protractor. So if we put the miter protractor in here, this is showing a single cut to be about 46 degrees. But then if there's any area of the floor that is unlevel, like we know it is here on this side, then we're going to have an issue cutting a 45 or an inside 45 for this corner. So coping is the way to go. Even if it's not at a 45 and it's at a 50, as you can see, the joint still fits tight, and it'll fit tight at just about any, I mean, you can get pretty crazy as far as the angle, and the joint still fits pretty tight. It's a little bit at the top, but nothing's going to be that radical anyway. It's just going to be a couple of 2-3 degrees. So that is why you want to cut the inside cope. And it might not just be that the wall is angled in. None of these corners in your house are going to be true 90 degrees. You're always going to run into an issue. None of the floors are going to be perfectly level, and this will compensate for some of that. And if it doesn't, then watch my video what to do when coping doesn't work for an unlevel floor. And guys, this is the way to go. Coping is the way to go. I sand it just a little bit more, maybe another minute or so, and it fits a lot nicer. And I would be perfectly happy with that. Alright guys, so no matter whether you choose a coping saw or if you choose a 4-inch grinder with the flap disc, Little spray adhesive and some sandpaper. This is 100 grit. It eats through it pretty quick. It's not a surface that you're going to see. You don't have to go back and sand it again to try and smooth it out. Either way, guys, coping is not that difficult, and it is going to save you a ton of time on your trim jobs as opposed to trying to cut those inside corners on a 45. You're going to fight them, and it'll get aggravating. Just cope them and be done with it. That's all we got for this time, guys. I'd like to thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed yourself, click on one of those two videos. They're going to pop up right there, and we'll see you next time.